The galaxy was old, ordered, and cruel. It had rules written in gravity and fire. Only the strongest survived. Only the perfect endured. For millions of cycles, ancient alien empires ruled the stars. They did not remember defeat. They did not understand fear. Every war followed logic, numbers, and cold machines. Among them was the Lyran Dominion, a civilization built on precision and control. Their worlds were clean, their cities silent, their people trained from birth to obey the system. Emotion was a weakness long removed from their kind. One Lyran world circled a dying blue star. It was a place of learning, not war. Archives, energy towers, and orbital shields covered the planet. The Lyrans believed it was untouchable. They were wrong. The attack came without warning. No declaration, no signal, no demand. A rival empire broke the ancient codes and struck first. Space burned. Defense grids failed in seconds. Ships designed never to be hit were torn apart. Perfect calculations collapsed under chaos. The sky over the Lyran world turned red. Fragments of stations fell like rain. The ground shook as cities lost power and light. For the first time in their long history, the Lyrans felt something unfamiliar. Loss, fear, confusion. Millions died in silence. Not screaming, not fighting, just erased. Their systems had no answer for panic. The Lyran commanders followed protocol. They waited for backup that never came. They trusted alliances that chose survival over loyalty. Betrayal spread faster than fire. Neighbor empires sealed their borders. Ancient treaties dissolved in a single cycle. The galaxy that never lost a war had no mercy for the weak. And now the Lyrans were weak. One survivor vessel escaped the destruction. A damaged archive ship carrying records, memories, and refugees. It drifted through unstable space, hunted and alone. The survivors watched their home fade into nothing. A world erased. A civilization broken. They searched for safe zones. They searched for allies. They found only closed gates and silent stars. As the ship moved farther from known space, the galaxy changed. Sensors detected regions ignored by major powers. Unmapped systems, unstable orbits, strange signals. The archives labeled them as insignificant zones. Low value. Low life probability. In those dark regions lived small, young species. Short-lived, divided, emotional. The records called them primitives. One name appeared again and again in fragmented data. A species that fought itself constantly. A species with no unified empire. A species with weak technology and fragile bodies. Humans. The Lyran survivors dismissed the name at first. Such beings could not matter in a galaxy of giants. They were barely worth study. Yet the data was strange. Human ships survived damage that should destroy them. Human colonies rebuilt after total collapse. Human signals continued even after catastrophic loss. The Lyrans did not understand it. They marked it as statistical noise. The damaged vessel entered the edge of human space. Running out of power. Running out of hope. Behind them, the war expanded. The galaxy consumed itself without pity. More ancient worlds burned. Ahead of them was the unknown. A weak species. A chaotic region. As the ship crossed the boundary, sensors detected massive wreckage fields. Signs of battles humans were never meant to survive. And yet, human signals were still active. The galaxy that never lost a war had begun to fracture. And somewhere in the darkness, something stubborn was waiting. The damaged archive ship drifted deeper into unfamiliar space. Its hull was cracked, its engines weak, its people exhausted. The Lyran survivors had expected silence. Instead, they found noise. Human space was loud. Signals overlapped, broadcasts repeated, alarms echoed across open channels. There was no clean order, no perfect control. From an alien view, it looked broken. The Lyrans observed from the shadows. They saw human stations held together by repairs and scars. Ships mismatched in shape and size, many clearly old. Technology that worked not because it was perfect, but because it was forced to keep going. This confused the Lyrans. In their galaxy, damaged things were discarded. Here, damaged things survived. Then the war followed them. An ancient alien fleet entered the region, hunting anything weak enough to erase. Human space was not a target. It was a path. The fleet moved without care. Their weapons fired through human systems. Stations were destroyed by accident. Civilian ships vanished without warning. Humans did not run fast enough. Their warnings came late. Their defenses failed. Entire human colonies burned. Cities broke apart in orbit. Planets lost atmosphere and light. The Lyrans watched. They expected humans to collapse, to scatter, to surrender. Instead, humans stayed. Rescue ships flew into fire. Old vessels returned to combat zones already lost. Signals changed tone, from panic to anger. Human losses were massive. Families erased. Histories cut short. Pain spread through every system. The Lyrans felt something twist inside their calm minds. Humans reacted to loss differently. They did not go silent. They gathered wreckage. They repaired ships mid-flight. They armed transports never meant for war. Human fighters attacked the alien fleet without order, without calculation, without fear. They lost ships. They lost people. But they kept coming. The alien fleet adjusted. They destroyed human vessels with ease. They mocked the resistance in their internal logs. To them, humans were insects throwing themselves at a storm. But something strange happened. Human attacks grew closer, more precise, more aggressive. Humans learned during battle. They changed tactics after every loss. They adapted while bleeding. The Lyrans realized this was not logic. It was emotion. Human pain did not stop them. It pushed them forward. The archive ship recorded everything. Human pilots flying damaged ships into enemy formations. Human engineers turning broken reactors into weapons. Human commanders refusing retreat orders after catastrophic losses. The alien fleet began taking damage. Small at first, then growing. Not because humans were stronger, but because they refused to stop. The Lyrans felt fear again. Not for themselves, but for the galaxy. If a weak species could endure this much pain and still fight, what would they become under greater suffering? The battle spread. Stars dimmed from debris. Space filled with wreckage and fire. At the edge of the conflict, the Lyran ship finally failed. Power dropped. Systems shut down. As darkness filled the archive decks, sensors detected something new. A massive human signal cluster forming. Not retreating. Not hiding. Advancing. The Lyrans understood too late. Humans were not strong yet. But they were learning fast. And the war had just taught them how to survive. The war did not slow. It became worse. Human space turned into a field of fire and metal. Every system showed scars. Every signal carried loss. The ancient alien fleet adjusted its strategy. It stopped wasting energy on clean strikes. It aimed to break human will. Supply lines were cut. Hospitals were destroyed. Evacuation routes were hunted. The aliens believed pain would end resistance. In their history, it always had. They did not understand humans. Human worlds suffered deeply. Children were lost. Homes vanished. Entire generations ended in hours. Grief spread faster than information. But it did not freeze humanity. It hardened it. Human leaders stopped asking for permission. Civil authorities stepped aside. Survivors took control. Factories ran without pause. Old weapons were reactivated. Civilian machines were converted into war tools. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was abandoned. Human bodies broke under strain. Pilots flew until their hands shook. Engineers worked until they collapsed. Medics treated wounds while under fire. Pain was everywhere. And it did not stop them. The Lyran survivors watched in disbelief. Human fear did not cause retreat. It caused focus. Each loss taught humans something. Weapon patterns were studied. Alien timing was mapped. Weak points were remembered. Humans adapted between attacks. Not in safe labs, but inside burning ships. The alien fleet began encountering traps. Ships lured into debris fields. Weapons firing into empty space. Formations disrupted by reckless charges. Human ships rammed enemy vessels when weapons failed. Damaged fighters stayed in combat long past safe limits. Retreat was rare. The aliens called it madness. But their losses grew. Human communication changed. Messages became short, focused, final. Many humans fought knowing they would not return. They fought anyway. The Lyrans felt something they had never processed before. Respect mixed with fear. Human strength was not in metal. It was in refusal. The galaxy watched this region closely now. Ancient empires noticed the anomaly. A weak species resisting extinction longer than logic allowed. Predictions failed. Simulations broke. The aliens increased pressure. They deployed heavier weapons. They burned entire orbits. Human casualties multiplied. Yet resistance did not collapse. Instead, something changed. Human attacks became coordinated, faster, sharper. The alien fleet began losing command ships. Communication gaps appeared. Confusion spread. For the first time, alien formations hesitated. The Lyran archive ship recorded a critical data point. Human losses had reached levels that should cause total collapse. Yet human signals increased. More ships entered combat. More volunteers arrived. The data made no sense. As the battle reached its peak, the Lyrans detected a shift. Human forces were no longer reacting. They were planning. A new pattern emerged. One built on sacrifice, on endurance, on stubborn defiance. The ancient alien fleet prepared a final strike to erase the region completely. A blow meant to end humanity in a single act. The Lyrans understood the danger. If humans survived what was coming, the galaxy would never be the same. As alien superweapons charged, human fleets did not flee. They moved forward, into certain death, with full intent. The ancient alien empires watched with confidence. They had seen resistance before. They had erased stronger species. To them, humanity was still weak, too emotional, too divided. Alien analysts laughed at human formations, calling them unstable, calling them inefficient. Human ships were old. Many were already damaged. Some barely held together. The empires believed the next strike would end everything. The superweapons fired. Space twisted. Light bent. Entire regions vanished in silent flashes. Human fleets were torn apart. Hundreds of ships disappeared. Thousands of lives ended in moments. From the alien view, the result was clear. No species could survive that level of force. But the sensors did not show silence. Human signals continued. Weaker, fewer, but still active. The empires paused. Confused. They fired again. Harder. Wider. Human losses grew unbearable. Stations collapsed. Planets burned. Supply hubs vanished. Still, humans did not surrender. The Lyran survivors watched closely. They saw human behavior shift again. Humans stopped defending fixed positions. They abandoned territory without regret. They lured alien fleets deeper. Human ships appeared from unexpected angles, attacked briefly, then vanished. The empires called it disorganized retreat. They followed. That was the mistake. Human forces struck command vessels first. Not the strongest ships, but the ones that held control. Alien fleets began losing coordination. Orders arrived late. Signals conflicted. Humans targeted logistics. Fuel carriers. Repair units. Communication relays. Alien fleets slowed. Their advantage weakened. The empires mocked human suicide tactics. Until they realized humans were not trying to survive each battle. They were trying to end the war. Human ships rammed superweapon cores. Pilots stayed on course even as alarms screamed. Escape pods were ignored. The aliens had no answer for this. Their systems were designed to preserve assets, not to sacrifice them. Human emotion filled the battlefield. Grief, rage, resolve. The Lyrans felt it even from a distance. A force no sensor could measure. Alien losses became impossible to hide. Entire armadas crippled. Superweapons disabled. The laughter stopped. Ancient empires fell silent as reports spread. Humans were not breaking. They were learning faster than expected. Human fleets grew smaller, but more dangerous. Every surviving ship carried experience. Every pilot carried memory. The empires attempted negotiations. Not openly, not with respect, but with calculation. Humans did not respond. They attacked harder. The war reached a turning point. Alien commanders began ordering retreats. Something that had never happened before. The galaxy noticed. Civilizations that once ignored humanity began watching with fear. A weak species forcing ancient powers to withdraw. The Lyran survivors understood the truth. Humans were not winning through strength. They were winning through refusal. As alien fleets pulled back to regroup, human forces did not chase. They prepared. They gathered wreckage. They repaired what could be saved. They studied every battle. The Lyrans detected a final escalation. The empires were preparing something forbidden. A total annihilation strike. One meant to erase human space completely. As the galaxy held its breath, humans did not run. They moved into position. Quiet. Focused. Ready to meet the end head-on. The forbidden weapon awakened at the edge of the system. It was older than most empires. A device built to end wars by ending stars. The ancient empires believed this would restore order. One strike. Total silence. The weapon began to charge. Gravity warped. Time felt heavy. Entire fleets pulled into its shadow. Human sensors detected it too late. There was no escape path. No safe distance. The Lyran survivors expected panic. They expected chaos. They saw none. Human fleets did not scatter. They tightened formation, not into defensive lines, but into attack paths. Human commanders understood the truth. This was not a battle meant to be survived. It was a moment meant to be endured. Human ships moved forward as one. Not fast, not desperate, but certain. The empires watched in disbelief. No species had ever advanced toward this weapon. Every other race had fled, or begged. Humans did neither. The first wave was erased. Ships vanished without debris. Lives ended without signal. Human fleets did not stop. The second wave followed through the aftermath, flying through unstable space, through radiation storms, through wreckage that still burned. Pilots knew they would not return. Their actions showed it. Escape systems disabled. Course locks engaged. Human ships were not trying to outgun the weapon. They were trying to break it. Piece by piece, layer by layer. Alien defenses activated. Automated fleets swarmed the attackers. Human ships were torn apart. Still they advanced. Human engineers overloaded reactors on approach, turning ships into guided blasts. Not clean, not precise, but effective. The weapon's outer systems began to fail, not from superior firepower, but from relentless impact. The empires tried to pull back their fleets, but human forces cut retreat paths, using debris fields, using gravity wells. Human tactics ignored preservation, ignored survival, ignored loss. They focused only on outcome. The Lyran survivors felt fear unlike before. Not fear of death, but fear of what this meant. A species willing to lose everything, just to make sure the enemy lost more. The final human wave reached the core zone, where space itself collapsed inward. No ship should have functioned there. Some did, barely held together by manual control, by constant repair, by refusal to shut down. Human vessels rammed core stabilizers, detonated inside containment fields, force chain failures. The forbidden weapon began to tear itself apart. Energy leaking, control systems collapsing. The empires panicked. They attempted emergency shutdown. They attempted escape. Too late. The weapon imploded. Not in a single flash, but in a spreading collapse. Alien fleets caught in its pull were crushed. Superweapons folded into themselves. Entire command structures erased. Human ships near the core vanished as well. No survivors. No signals. Silence followed. The galaxy watched the aftermath in shock. A weapon meant to end humanity, destroyed by a species it had dismissed. Human space was devastated. Systems dark. Fleets nearly gone. By every known measure, humanity should have been finished. Yet human signals continued. Weak. Scattered. Still alive. The Lyran archives marked the event as impossible. No logic explained it. The ancient empires withdrew in confusion and fear. They had won many wars. But this felt like defeat. In the ruins of the battlefield, human survivors began to regroup, repair, rebuild. They did not celebrate. They prepared, because they knew the truth now. The galaxy would not forgive this, and something far greater was coming. The war did not return right away. Instead, the galaxy changed. Ancient empires pulled back into their borders. Trade routes closed. Military traffic slowed. For the first time in known history, the stars were quiet. The silence was not peace. It was caution. Across the galaxy, records were rewritten. Humanity was no longer listed as minor, no longer ignored, no longer dismissed. They were reclassified as dangerous, not because of their weapons, but because of their behavior. Analysts studied the data again and again. Human fleets should have collapsed. Human morale should have broken. Human society should have fractured. None of it happened. Human worlds rebuilt with limited resources. Cities rose among ruins. Shipyards worked with scraps and memory. Pain did not slow them. It shaped them. Human culture changed. Loss became history. History became warning. Every child learned what survival cost. Every pilot carried names of the fallen. Every ship carried scars on purpose. The Lyran survivors remained near human space. Not as rulers, not as masters, but as witnesses. They watched humans repair what was broken. Not perfectly, but stubbornly. They saw humans honor the dead, then return to work. The Lyrans finally understood. Humans did not move past pain. They carried it forward. Other civilizations noticed the shift. Border empires avoided human systems. Exploration fleets changed course. Fear replaced curiosity. Some species tried to copy human tactics. They failed because they lacked the core truth. Human strength was not in sacrifice alone. It was in meaning. Humans chose to endure. Again and again. The ancient empires sent observers. Not to threaten, but to study. They wanted to know what made humans different. They found no single answer. There was no gene, no special technology, only a pattern. When humans were pushed, they pushed back harder. When they were hurt, they adapted. When they were told they would lose, they refused. The galaxy adjusted its behavior. Wars became cautious. Superweapons were sealed away. No empire wanted to awaken the same response again. In distant systems, stories began to spread. Of a species that fought while breaking. Of fleets that advanced when logic said retreat. The stories became warnings. Do not corner humans. Do not underestimate humans. Do not expect humans to surrender. The Lyran archives closed their final record on the war. The entry was short. Humanity survived extinction. Not through dominance, but through refusal. The galaxy that never lost a war learned its lesson. Victory meant nothing against a species that would not quit. Somewhere in rebuilt human space, new ships launched. Not to conquer, but ready. Ready for the next test. Ready for the next loss. Ready for whatever the universe decided to send. Because one truth was now carved into galactic memory. Written in wreckage and silence. Humans never surrender.